Before I even start discussing the title of the video, I have to say, this fight exceeded my expectations. I mean, think about it. Despite the loss, we saw Tai Tuivasa better than ever. In my last video, I pretty much discounted Tai Tuivasa. I said he might not even stand a chance. He did to Ciryl Gane what no one else could do. I mean, he did to Ciryl Gane what Francis Ngannou couldn't do, and that's hit him. Tai Tuivasa hit Ciryl Gane bad. He managed to close the distance better than anyone else. And with his shorter reach and with shorter height, he still managed to touch him. That's something that Francis Ngannou, the king of power punches, couldn't do. That's something every other elite heavyweight couldn't do. So Tai Tuivasa managed to do it, and I'm very, very impressed by him, especially because I discounted him. And on the other hand, even though it wasn't Ciryl Gane's most dominant performance, we finally get to see how tough he actually is. I mean, we knew he was dominant, we knew he was strong, however, he was never put into this much trouble. And now we finally see, even though he was knocked down, in his own words, he was almost knocked out. Apparently, he just woke up on the edge of the cage and they just started fighting again. That means we finally get to see Ciryl Gane's heart, and we see it's enormous. But back to the title and the main topic of this video. Many people have been accusing Ciryl Gane that he cheated. If you're wondering which moment they're talking about, it's the moment right before his finish. Right before the finish, he had Tai Tuivasa hurt, he got him wobbled, and then he threw a very, very controversial hammer fist to the back of the head. And now many fighters are saying that it's actually that punch to the back of the head which helped him get the knockout. If you don't believe me, go to Twitter. For example, Junior Dos Santos called out Ciryl Gane on being a dirty fighter who throws punches to the back of the head. And we all know that JDS had almost the same issue with Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane knocked out Junior Dos Santos with an elbow that was very, very controversial. So this would be a second time that Ciryl Gane won as a result of a debatable and arguable back of the head strike. And look, that's not a small thing. I mean, you got 2 wins at the top level, top 5, by a very, very, very controversial strike. That's not a small thing for Ciryl Gane. So let's get to the point of the video. Did Ciryl Gane cheat? Did he hit Tai Tuivasa in the back of the head and win the fight? Was the strike legal or not? Well, I have a strong opinion about this, but let's analyze it together. Well, firstly, there are many ways to avoid, quote-unquote, avoid this rule. For example, if your fist touches the opponent's ear, even though you maybe hit the back of their head, as long as you touch the ear with your punch, it's not a back of the head strike. And I watched the video, I watched the knockout in slow motion, and I saw that Ciryl Gane's fist actually did touch Tai Tuivasa's ear. However, I mean, Gane's fist is just so big. I mean, no matter where on your head Ciryl Gane hits you, he has to hit your ear. I mean, his hand is enormous, right? I have a feeling if Ciryl Gane punches me in the stomach, he's gonna somehow hit my ear. Like, his hands are so big. So does that argument even count with him? A second way to avoid this rule is if your opponent turns into your punch. So if at the moment when you turn your punch, you're not aiming for the back of the head, but the opponent turns their head, and you'll end up landing on that point. That's another way to avoid this rule. However, watching the footage, it didn't seem like Tai Tuivasa turned his head into the punch. It seemed like it was genuinely aimed at the back of the head, at least in my opinion. I mean, if you look at the video, Tai Tuivasa had his head bent down, and while his head was bent down, Ciryl Gane threw a hammer fist from the top. I mean, he had to know where it was going to land, right? So we're in a kind of a tricky situation now, because yes, it did touch the ear, but it didn't seem like Tai Tuivasa turned his head into the strike. So that's a tricky area. But in light of all this evidence, my opinion is the following. I do not think that that specific shot was the shot that ended the fight, right? I think Ciryl Gane already had him wobble, he had him hurt, he was barely standing. He hit him with that controversial shot, and Tai Tuivasa was still standing. And then it was the following shot, I think it was a hook or an uppercut, that knocked Tai Tuivasa out. And yes, it's unfair that this shot landed because I think it might have been more to the back of the head than it was supposed to be. However, it was not a fight-ending shot. I think this punch did not change the outcome of the fight at all. That's why, in my opinion, this takes nothing away from Ciryl Gane's victory. I mean, Ciryl Gane's victory was achieved through his toughness. It was achieved through his toughness to get up when he was knocked out, his constant jabs that kept Tai Tuivasa at a distance. It was achieved by his brilliant game plan. It was achieved by all those vicious body kicks melting down his opponent in front of his eyes. And all the body kicks, all the pain that Tuivasa had to endure made him think about the body, and then boom, Ciryl Gane goes up top and he wins the fight. And finally, this is no ordinary sport. This is not basketball where we can pause the game, referee goes back to the screen, sees what happened, fixes the mistake. No. Unfortunately, whether we agree with it or not, what is done is done. The fight is over, the decision was made, and no one can go back and remove that punch or put Tai Tuivasa in the same situation before the punch. Overall, an amazing card of fights from start to finish, with the main event on top, and I cannot wait for the event next week, Khamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz. I know we're all looking forward to it. And stay tuned for my analysis video for the next event and for my predictions video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and see you all in the next one.